The law of sacrifice is the common divine action that was thrown out into the world in its beginning as a symbol of the solidarity of the universe. It is by the attraction of this law that a divinizing, a saving power descends to limit and correct and gradually to eliminate the errors of an egoistic and self-divided creation. This descent, this sacrifice of the Purusha, the divine soul submitting itself to force and matter, so that it may inform and illuminate them, is the seed of redemption of this world of inconscience and ignorance. Well, when we read this para, we remember the Madhusudan story of the creation of this universe. She tells the children of the ashram in their classes a tale that had been passed on since ancient times, and a tale that most of you must have read or heard of, or sometimes we ourselves have spoken about it in the class. That is, when the Supreme wanted to manifest Himself or create this world or this universe, what He does is He brings out, He brings forth His consciousness. You see, normally, we have this famous line from the Bible where we say, when God decides to create the world, He says, "Let there be light." So there is a kind of a projection of light, of consciousness, of something that comes forth, comes out of the divine. Here, the mother describes that it is the consciousness of the Supreme which came out. Now, philosophically, you may say, what is the meaning of coming out? Because the divine is always conscious. He is Sat, Chit and Ananda. Well, it comes out when we say consciousness is brought forth. It is in a way telling of an objectification, self-objectification. If you understand the word, it is to self-objectify. The world, the universe is nothing but a self-objectification of the divine. I have explained this before, but to repeat once again. You see, when we say the word subject and object, I am the subject. But the moment I say there is an object, that means it is there outside of me which I am perceiving. So an object is something outside of you. You don't call the heart and the lungs in your body as an object. It's part of your being. You don't even see it. But what you see outside of you is the object. So when we say the divine objectifies Himself, it means He brings out the universe and looks at it. But then you may say, how can He bring out the universe? Because the universe has no other place but Brahman Himself. It is not, nothing can exist beyond and outside Brahman. But here, objectification would mean that what was dormant as a possibility within Satchidananda becomes a possibility. You see what Sri Aurobindo explains in the Life Divine, and other places too, is that this multiplicity, that means all this universe, which is called the multiplicity, is there essentially within the divine, but it is unmanifest, not brought out. You see, a woman has the capacity to bear children, to bring out the child from her womb. But she has the potential to create the child in the womb. But when the time comes, she creates the baby in the womb and delivers it. So the universe is nothing but the delivery of this multiplicity out of the womb of the divine. So that is what is called the objectification. So, to come back to the story, the Supreme brings forth His consciousness. That means if I can use a simple word, activates His consciousness. You see, for example, when we are sleeping, we are all conscious, and yet we are unconscious. That means we are not awake. Consciousness is there, but we say it is dormant. In the morning when I wake up, the consciousness becomes active. What we say, I'm awake, means what? That means my consciousness is now active, acting object, you can see the object. So the mothers would tell us that this consciousness came forth. And the Supreme tells this consciousness. And then who is this consciousness? What is the name of this consciousness? Does it have a name at all? Yes. The name of this consciousness is Aditi. The name that was given by the Vedas is Aditi. But interestingly for us, the mother says that consciousness which was brought out by Brahman was me. This is one of the very rare cases when the mother speaks about her own origin. Otherwise, normally we do not see her talking about herself. But that was one instance where she said, that consciousness was me. So immediately you understand who is that mother, who is this mother that you see. She is that original creatrix who was brought out from the womb of Satchidananda. So the Supreme Lord tells the mother that now you create the world, because always the consciousness or Chit Shakti, consciousness force, because consciousness alone does not create, cannot create the world. There has to be Shakti, force, energy, power. So the mother is the Chit Shakti. So she being both the consciousness and the force, the Supreme Lord says, you create the world. Or the universe, not the world. But then the mother, she brings forth 4 other aspects. They are this life and love and knowledge and light. So she brings forth some of these 4 different aspects and tells them to go ahead and create. She what she does is she delegates her powers to 4 other powers called life and love and knowledge and all. But these 4 delegated powers, in the beginning they obey the source, they obey the mother. But after a time they said, after all, we are independent. We are ourselves the great powers. Don't mistake these 4 powers with the 4 aspects of the mother, they are different. Huh? So they felt independent and they went on their own. And unfortunately, independent, to be independent of the divine leads us inevitably into sorrow and suffering. This ignorance is nothing but being independent of the divine. So these four powers, when they said, we have nothing to do with the mother, we are independent, they went on a wrong track, so to say. And they created falsehood and ignorance and darkness and death. So the world, the first creation of this universe, there were nothing but darkness and death and suffering. That is what Sri Aurobindo calls as the inconscience. So, inconscience was the very opposite of the divine. And that inconscience is nothing but, as I said again and again, darkness and death and falsehood.